Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Astute Tuition Center. So today in biology, we're going to do a very simple topic, which is the first topic of the biology syllabus, which has got the title of living organisms. Then specifically today, we're going to look at the characteristics of living organisms, the memory aid that we can use to easily remember these characteristics. And then we're going to later on go to look at cells, and then after that, the next time we have biology, we're going to sum up the topic with looking at specialization of cells, and then look at past paper questions. So tune in for this lesson. So as I said, we're looking at living organisms. So living organisms have got characteristics that make them to be classified as living organisms, and then there are eight of these characteristics. And then for you to easily remember these characteristics, you are given a memory aid or a mnemonic that will easily help us remember those eight characteristics that classify that this particular organism is a living organism, and that memory aid is Mr. Griffith. So M in the Mr means movements and locomotion, the R means reproduction, G means growth, R means respiration, E means excretion, F feeding and or nutrition, I means sense irritability or sensitivity, and C means cells. So one thing that you should notice is that these throughout the whole syllabus for biology, we're just going to be looking at these eight characteristics of living organisms, except that as we go on, we'll be looking at each characteristic in depth. But for now, we're just focusing on a glimpse of the characteristics. So let's come to the first one, which is movement. So we need to say that movement is a process by which living organisms changes its location and posture. So for movement, under this one, the entire body of the organism doesn't move, it just changes posture. For example, take for instance, this is your organism like this. Maybe in the morning it's like this, and when this maybe at night when it's like this, and then when the sun is rising from this side, it starts moving like that towards the sun. As the sun is moving, even it's moving like that. This organism is moving, but it's not changing in position, like its position is just moving. So that's what we call movement. And then locomotion is a process where now the organism, the entire body of the organism is moving. For example, like this marker, when it moves from here to here, that's what we call locomotion. And then reproduction is a process by which all these living organisms reproduce their offspring. So that process where they produce their young ones is called reproduction. And then growth is the permanent increase in size, mass, number of cells, and complexity of the organism. So for this one, I've been told it's permanent, meaning growth isn't irreversible. So when you grow, it's continuous. You can't go back to where you are. So when growth occurs, there are things that have to occur, which is you need to increase in size, mass, number of cells, and even the complexity of the organism has to change. So only living organisms are able to grow. Respiration is the release of energy from food substances in living organisms. So when you release energy from the food substances we obtain, that's what we call respiration. And then excretion is the removal of waste products from the organism. So when these organisms remove that waste products that are accumulated in the body after carrying out certain reaction, that process by which those waste products are removed through the process of excretion. And then we come to F, which is feeding or nutrition, which is the process by which organisms obtain their food. So as we go on, we'll be looking in depth on how this feeding, how this is going to be explained in depth as the characteristic of living organism. And then I've got irritability, which is the ability to detect and respond to stimuli. So that ability that we have to detect and respond to stimuli, like for example, when imagine this is a plate stove, and then when you touch the plate stove, you detect that this is hot, and then you respond to that stimuli, which is the plate. We were able to do that because of this characteristic of living organisms, which is irritability. And lastly, we're going to look at the cells, which is just the basic units of a living organism. So the small building blocks that the main organism is made of is what we call the cells, the small building blocks. So for today, I'll just focus on the first characteristic of organisms, which of living organism, which is cells. So their cells are microscopic in nature, meaning you can't see them without your naked eye. You need a microscope. So there are types of microscopes that are used to view cells. So as you can see in this picture here, we've got cells of a plant and an animal cell that have been viewed by a different type of microscope. So let's go and describe what these are just the basic structures of the cell. So this is how a cell appears like when you view it under a simple microscope. So we have got an animal cell, which is this one here. This is an animal cell, and this is a plant cell. So these two cells have got similarities in terms of structure, as you can see here. So the similarities is that both of them have got a nucleus, they have got cytoplasm, they have got a cell membrane. So both the animal and plant cell have got these three. Just like human beings, we have got females and males who are all classified as human beings, but there are those distinctive characteristics that distinguish males from females. So same as an animal and plant cells, they are all classified as cells, but there are those characteristics, they have similar characteristics that make them to be called cells, but they also have differences that make them to be different despite them being cells. And these differences are cell wall, chloroplast, and the vacuole. So the plant cell has got these that are not there in the animal cell. And then when you look at maybe in terms of differences, you can, if I tell you to be asked in the exams, state differences between a plant cell and animal cell, you can say the differences in terms of these structures that are found in the plant cell that are not found in an animal cell. And then you can also say a difference in terms of their structure. When you look at a plant cell, it's the structure is regular. Then for an animal cell, it's irregular. So it's, you can't tell whether it's a circle, whether it's a rectangle. This is just the way an animal cell is. But for a plant cell, as you can see, it's a regular shape. It's like a square, like a rectangle, like, yeah. Its structure is regular. So now this is how a cell appears under a simple microscope. And then now when you use like an electron microscope, it will show a detailed structure of an animal and plant cell. So there will be certain structures that will appear when you're using a different type of microscope. So when you're using like an electron microscope, this is how an animal cell looks like. So the nucleus has got other parts. It's made up of other parts, which is the nucleoplasm, the nucleolus, nuclear membrane, and the nuclear pore. So the nucleoplasm is the liquid that is found inside the nucleus, and then the nuclear membrane is that outer membrane that covers the nucleus, and then the nucleolus is the one that contains the DNA, and then the nuclear pore, these are the spaces on which the RNA or the DNA pass through. So these four parts make up what we call the nucleus. And then under another structures that will be seen using a detailed microscope is that you see structures called mitochondria. So these mitochondria, which are here, these are the sites for respiration. So respiration occurs in these structures called mitochondria. And then you are able to see these structures that are attached to the nucleus, which are called the endoplasmic reticulum. So these are in two types. Of got the rough ones and the smooth ones. So the way they are different is that the rough ones have got ribosomes around them, and the smooth ones don't have ribosomes. As you can see, they don't have ribosomes. So for these ones, the ones with ribosomes, they are used in protein synthesis. So ribosomes synthesize protein. So these ones, the smooth endoplasmic the rough endoplasmic reticulum, are used for the production of ribosomes. I mean, for production of proteins, and the reason is that they contain ribosomes around them. And then for the smooth, they don't have any ribosomes around them, but they transport lipids around the cell. And then we also have these dot-like structures that you are able to see here. They're called ribosomes, and these are the ones that they're the ones that make proteins. And then we have these plate-like structures that you can see here. These are called Golgi bodies. So these modify and carry those proteins that are synthesized by the ribosomes. They are carried by they are modified and carried by the Golgi bodies. So this is how an animal cell looks like under an electron microscope. And then this is how a plant cell looks like under an electron microscope, except that it has got extra features like the chloroplast, it has got the vacuole. So the functions of the reticulums, the nucleus, they are just the same as of the functions in the plant cell. So I'll just describe the functions of the chloroplast, which are not found in the plant cell, and the vacuole. Yeah. So these chloroplasts are their function is to they store chlorophyll. They store chlorophyll inside them. So this chlorophyll is the one that makes plants to have a green color. So when your little brother asks you or your little sister asks you why are plants green, you can tell it's because of the chlorophyll that is stored in these structures called chloroplasts. And then plant cells have got a special structure called a vacuole. So this vacuole has got a liquid inside that is called a cell sap. And then this same liquid inside, which is called the cell sap, the vacuole has got an outer coating which is called the tonoplast. So inside this vacuole, they are responsible for storing all mineral salts. So all the mineral salts in the plant cell are stored in the vacuole. And then they also have an extra layer, the plant cells, which is called the cell wall. The animal cells don't have a cell wall, but these have a cell wall. So mainly the cell wall are there to protect the inner organelles of the cell. And then when you look at this cell wall, it contains there are certain components that enables it to be rigid. So I'm pretty sure you see those how the cell wall plays its role when it comes to osmosis. Yeah, you see how they play a role. And then this cell membrane is to select what substances should enter the cell and what substance should go out of the cell. So this is the topic for today. And then the next time we're going to meet again, we're going to look at specialization of cells, where we're going to look at different types of cells, and then we'll also answer past paper questions, and then we're going to say bye bye to the first topic. So for today, this is the end. Have a blessed night, and thank you for your attention. For more information, please contact us on the number that we're going to write down in the comment section. Otherwise, have a blessed night. Thank you.